Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Fable Joey, and I am here with an album review today. It has been a while since I have reviewed an album, so I thought I'd give you guys a kind of short, a little bit scatterbrained and laid-back review of Video Age's new record, Pleasure Line. Now, I've been really looking forward to this third record from Video Age. I am a pretty decent fan of their music. I thought that 2018's Pop Therapy was pretty great. I thought a lot of the vocal melodies on there were super ear-grabbing. They had some really great lyrics and a couple standout tracks that I love and still listen to even today. So yeah, I was pretty excited, and even their 2016 record was pretty great. So I was excited when I heard that they were making a new record, and I gotta say, those first couple singles blew me away, and I was like, man, I'm excited for this thing, and for good reason, because it is a great record, and I have to say, after listening to it, I think it might be Video Age's best. So guys, welcome to my review. I am super excited to talk about this. So let's just kind of get into an overview of my opinion on this music style, and then we'll get into the track list. I have to say, over the years, I think that my indie rock and indie pop taste has kind of died down a little bit. I'm not really loving the genre as much as I used to. I think so much of it is so similar to each other, and there's like a lot of artists that sound so similar. Like, you know, lead singers of the group will have like the exact same voice as others. These songs will be written like the exact same. So just part of me has lost my love for indie pop and indie rock. So for a new record in that vein to not only capture my attention, but keep me pretty satisfied throughout the whole duration of a record is pretty impressive for at least me now. And it just kind of attests to how wonderful this record really is, because it absolutely caught my attention. And although I've said indie pop and indie rock quite a bit, I have to say, Pleasure Line has such a funk edge to it, such a groovy edge to it. There's so many bass lines that just, you know, they belong on a disco record, and there's so many synth lines where you're like, oh my gosh, that's so fantastic, and they just got looped drums and everything. You know, it's really great. And I have to say, before we get into the track list, a lot of artists are ripping off that 80s sound. Everyone loves the sound of the 80s, and I have to say, although a couple of songs, maybe from Video Age's catalog, you're like, well, I mean, they're trying a little too hard to sound in this era, I have to say, with this album especially, they stand on their own. They have their own unique sound with those influences. You know, I'd say that I think a really great way to describe Video Age is kind of like a funkier Beach Boys, and I mean that as the highest compliment. But anyway, there's kind of my overview, and I thought I'd just kind of get it out of the way that I don't really like albums like this anymore. So the fact that I really do like this one enough to review it, talk about it, means that it's pretty special. So I hope you guys will give it a chance. So let's get into that track list. I'm not going to talk about every song here, but it is a pretty short record. It's about 10 songs in just under 40 minutes. So, I mean, it's pretty to the point, but man, is it punchy and just fun. I love this record, pretty much from front to back. So let's talk about just a couple negatives in the track list before we get on to the positive. I really do not have a ton of negatives, but I think it's important that I do touch on things that I maybe didn't like as much, because I know in my previous reviews I only said positive things, even about a record that I'd give like a C+ or something, and I know that that's probably dumb. So let's get into a few negatives that I have. I have to say, with this record, it kind of sounds like, because it's so coherent and because the overall vibe and sound is pretty, you know, samey throughout the track list, there are a few tracks that'll kind of go over my head and I'll kind of forget what it sounds like. If you asked me what like this track sounded like I wouldn't be able to remember the melody or lyrics or anything off the top of my head. So that's something. So I just say that a couple tracks are forgettable here and there, but really that's kind of my only problem. Like I said, when so much of it is the same and has the same vibe, it is kind of easy to lose track of which song is which, or, you know, which song you liked more than another. So I'd say that I'd say some things are a little forgettable. You know, the lyrics aren't always great, and maybe you feel like, did I already hear that bass line earlier? But yeah, just kind of like minor gripes like that. But let's get into the track list and let's talk about positives, because, I mean, I can basically praise this record for being just charming, entertaining, fantastic grooves on pretty much every track. So let's get into my favorite tracks and kind of break them down. Starting with Aerostar. This was the first one in the track list where I was like, wow. And it's actually what's playing behind me right now. This song is so cheeky. I have to say, it belongs in like the Footloose soundtrack. And I mean that as a really great compliment. It's so fun. Like I said, it's cheeky, it's campy, but it kind of knows what it's doing. And it has such a nice keyboard line that goes throughout it, and just these really great kick drum grooves. I love this song. It was definitely a standout. Within like first listen, I was like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorites. I believe it was a single as well, and I don't know if I heard it until I listened to the album all the way through, but man, it's a fantastic track. If you're only going to listen to one or two songs from the album, highly recommend this one. Now I'm looking over my notes and stuff just to kind of get over what tracks I loved and whatnot. I also wanted to mention maybe just once, I love the songwriting on this song because it has this kind of double-edged mentality to it where it'll say something, you know, that maybe the singer or whoever it's coming from the perspective of hasn't done, and then there's this little echoing voice that's like, well, maybe just once, you know? And I thought that was a really, really fun idea and executed pretty dang well. I thought it was a really interesting, you know, song just in the thematic element of it, but I really liked it. It was fun, and I do love songwriting like that, and that happens again on another highlight of the record. My favorite songwriting has to be with Comic Relief. I'd say that this one is a bit more melancholy in the writing than the others, but man, it's so great. Video Age knows how to write like to the point music with their lyrics. Like there's not like a ton of, you know, beating around the bush or like a ton of like hidden messages or something. It's just like if they want you to feel something with their music, it's, you know, it's gonna show it. And it's like the grooves on this record. I mean, it feels like much of it, like they're having fun, they want you to dance, and I love that about this record. But I have to, like, Comic Relief is just, it's so good. And I think if you're going to listen to any song on this album, definitely give that a chance. And the next one that I'm going to talk about, which is Shadow on the Wall. It is just, I don't know how you could hear Shadow on the Wall and not have like the urge to dance. Every single time that the song has come on, I just like, it's so just instantaneously like, whoa, this is funky. It's so groovy. The bass line is fantastic. The guitars, the vocals, everything is mixed so well on this track. It's just fun and charming. I don't know. I love Shadow on the Wall. So if you're looking for, you know, one of the funnest songs on the record or something, you're like, okay, well maybe I want to give this a shot. You want to listen to one or two songs, definitely Shadow on the Wall. So fun, so fantastic. It is a really great song. So let's head back to the track list and look at some other highlights that I thought, at least. We got Sweet Marie, which probably has my favorite bass line throughout the whole record. There are really great bass lines throughout the whole thing, but Sweet Marie definitely takes the cake for my favorite. And it is another one of the songs that I think is well written. This song, I don't know how to describe it without saying, it just has a really cute energy to it. I know that's kind of childish to like say, but that's kind of how I felt while I was listening to it. It's almost got this songwriting perspective of like a teenage romance of sorts, and just, it's like, it's really just kind of heartwarming. You know, it was a charming song, and I really did like it. It does remind me of like a Beach Boys track. And once again, when I say that, I mean it as a really great compliment. So Sweet Marie was pretty fantastic. And then we got That Can't Be. I have to say, this song, it really does kind of sound like something that would be on an indie game soundtrack. Something like Animal Crossing or, you know, like Golf Story, like one of those. And I, once again, mean that as a compliment. It is very breezy instrumentally, and it's very, you know, laid back and chill. And I did like that. It was kind of a nice transition from everything that was pretty funky and high energy, and I did like that a lot. And then after that, I'd say that we'd get maybe one of the only ballads on the record with Meet Me in My Heart. You know, I think this one is pretty great, and I actually like it more than the conclusion of the record, which is Good to Be Back, which I also did enjoy. I think it's a good conclusion, as well as the opener. The opener and the ender sound pretty similar, and I like that open and closes the record. But I'd say that Meet Me in My Mind, once again, is kind of that cheeky, fun songwriting, but it is in more of a ballad format, and I really do appreciate that. So now that we've kind of gone over the track list, guys, I have to say the instrumentation, the vocals, the songwriting, just kind of like, you know, the bass lines, the grooves and everything. This is definitely my favorite Video Age album. I think it's their best work yet, their most cohesive work yet, and just most consistent. Every song on this record is good in its own way. And like I said, there are a few that you're like, well, I might like this one better than I like this one, or this one sounds too similar to this one, and it's just kind of like that, but really that's not a massive negative. So as a score for this album, since I'm kind of doing this no script and just thoughts and feelings on the record, I'd say I'm anywhere from a B to a B plus right now. This record is not going to blow you away. It's not going to be some indie pop, you know, dance pop, magnum opus. It's just super fun. It's super fun record. It's super charming. And I really honestly hope that if you give this a chance, that you enjoy it. And if you already have, please tell me your favorite song from it and tell me some of your favorite records from this year. This one is definitely up in my top 10. There's been so much good music, so it's so hard to tell where it is. But I loved this new Video Age record, Pleasure Line, and I hope if you guys give it a shot, you do too. Like I said, I'm kind of on the B plus side of things with this record. I really enjoyed it. So that's about all I have to say, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching this, and I will see you soon. So, yep, that's the video, I guess.